Marcus Chen was the meanest businessman in the big city of River Heights. Everyone knew him as the man who would do anything to get more money and power. He didn't care who he hurt along the way, he just wanted to win. One hot summer day, Marcus was walking through the dusty marketplace with his friend Peter, looking at all the shops he owned. Peter pointed to a small figure huddled in the corner. It was Luna, a very thin girl who looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Her clothes were old and torn, and she didn't smell nice because she had nowhere to take a bath. Peter got a strange look in his eyes. "I bet you wouldn't dare to marry someone like her," he said to Marcus with a smile. Marcus laughed. "Of course not. Look at her, she's nothing like the fancy people I know." "What if I made you a deal?" Peter asked. "Marry her for 1 year and I'll give you $10 million. But if you don't do it, or if you break the rules, you lose everything you own to me." Marcus stopped laughing. He looked at Luna again. She was so skinny you could see her bones, and she looked very weak and tired. The thought of being near her made him want to run away. But Marcus never backed down from a challenge, and he couldn't bear the thought of looking weak. "1 year?" he asked. "Yes," Peter said. "You have to live together like a real married couple. No divorce, no cheating, no living apart. You have to treat her like a real wife." What Marcus didn't know was that Luna had heard every word they said, and she had a secret of her own. Years ago, Marcus had destroyed Luna's family's electronics store. Her father, William, had owned that store for many years. He worked hard every day to make customers happy. Luna was his favorite person in the world, and he dreamed of helping her become a doctor someday. But Marcus wanted to build a tall building where their store was. When William wouldn't sell the store, Marcus used his powerful friends to take it away with fake reasons. William lost everything he had worked for his whole life. The sadness was too much for William. One morning, Luna found him dead. The shock made her so sick that she lost her baby, and her husband ran away, leaving her alone with her sick little boy. Soon, Luna and her mother Sarah had no money left. Luna had to beg on the streets, while Sarah took care of the baby. But even with all her hard work, Luna couldn't save enough money for her son's medicine. Her little boy, named Sky, died when he was just 8 months old. After losing everything, Luna had one goal left: to make Marcus pay for what he did to her family. She watched him from the streets, learning everything about him from old newspapers. She waited patiently for her chance. Now, hearing this strange bet, Luna knew this was her opportunity. She would marry Marcus, get close to him, and then make him lose everything he cared about, just like he had done to her family. The wedding was quick and simple. Marcus could barely look at Luna as they signed the papers. When they got to his fancy apartment at the top of a tall building, he couldn't hide how much he hated having her there. "I can't believe I have to share my home with someone like you," Marcus said angrily, staring at Luna's old torn bag next to his expensive furniture. "It's like having a mouse in a castle." Luna didn't say anything. She just walked to the bedroom and got into the fancy bed, making Marcus even angrier. He grabbed a pillow and stormed out to sleep on the couch. But what Marcus didn't know was that Luna wasn't just a poor girl from the streets. She was much smarter than he thought, and she had plans of her own. The next morning, Marcus woke up with a sore back from sleeping on the couch. He walked into his kitchen and almost jumped. Luna was already there, but she looked different. She had taken a long shower and found some old clothes in the guest room. Her hair was clean and brushed, though still thin and messy. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, seeing her looking through his kitchen cabinets. "Learning," Luna said quietly. She'd already memorized where everything was kept. This was just the first step in her plan. Over the next few days, Luna watched everything Marcus did. She saw how he treated his workers badly on phone calls. She noticed which papers he kept locked in his office safe. She listened to all his business meetings that he held in the fancy living room. Marcus tried to ignore her. He would leave early and come home late, hoping she would just stay in her corner of the house. But Luna was always there, quiet but watching. Sometimes he caught her writing in a small notebook, but she would hide it when he came near. One day, Peter visited to check on their strange marriage. He was surprised to see Luna looking cleaner, though still very thin. "Well, Marcus," Peter laughed, "at least she doesn't smell as bad now. But I bet you're counting the days until this year is over." Marcus nodded, but something bothered him. He noticed Luna smiling a little when Peter said this, and her smile made him nervous. What was she planning? That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He got up for a glass of water and heard Luna talking quietly on his business phone in the dark living room. She hung up quickly when she heard him coming. "Who were you talking to?" he demanded. "Wrong number," Luna said, but her eyes told a different story. The next morning, Marcus got some scary news. One of his biggest business deals was in trouble. Someone had told the newspapers about how he had cheated to get the land for his new building. His phone started ringing with angry calls from investors and partners. Marcus stormed home, his face red with anger. "What did you do?" he shouted at Luna. But Luna just sat there, reading an old newspaper with his picture in it. The headline was from years ago, about a small electronics store that had been shut down, her father's store. Marcus felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Maybe this thin, quiet girl wasn't as weak as he thought. Maybe, just maybe, he had made a big mistake. Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the old newspaper Luna had been reading. He remembered that electronics store. It was just one of many businesses he had crushed to build his empire. But why did Luna care about it? The next few days got worse and worse for Marcus. More of his secrets started coming out. His business friends stopped taking his calls. The banks wanted to talk about his loans. Even his fancy car disappeared from its parking spot. He had forgotten that Luna's name was now on all his things because they were married. One morning, Marcus found Luna sitting at his desk in his home office. She was different now. Her back was straight, and her eyes were sharp and bright. She didn't look weak anymore. "Who are you really?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking a little. Luna smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Don't you remember the electronics store? The owner who died? He was my father, William. You took everything from us." Marcus felt like someone had poured cold water over him. He remembered William, the stubborn old man who wouldn't sell his store. But that was years ago. I was a normal girl then," Luna said quietly. "I was going to be a doctor. We had a good life. Then you came and destroyed it all. My father died because of you. My baby son died because we couldn't afford medicine. My mother died from working too hard trying to help us survive." Marcus sat down heavily. He had never thought about what happened to the families after he took their businesses. "So now," Luna continued, holding up papers from his safe, "I'm taking everything from you, piece by piece. Just like you did to us." "But how?" Marcus whispered. "I've been watching you for years from the streets, learning how you work, remembering every dirty deal, every person you hurt. And now, thanks to your friend Peter's bet, I'm your wife. Legally, I own half of everything you own." Marcus jumped up. "I'll divorce you. Remember the bet?" Luna smiled again. "If you divorce me, you lose everything to Peter. If you don't divorce me, I'll keep telling all your secrets until you lose everything anyway." Just then, Marcus's phone rang. It was his biggest business partner, cancelling all their deals. On his computer, emails poured in about more problems. His empire was falling apart, and he couldn't stop it. "1 year," Luna said, standing up. She didn't look like a beggar anymore. She looked like someone who had won a long, hard fight. 1 year of watching you lose everything, just like all the families you destroyed. And the best part? You did this to yourself. Your greed, your cruelty, and your pride made you accept this marriage. I just had to wait for the right moment." Marcus looked around his expensive apartment at all the things he had bought with money earned from hurting people. For the first time in his life, he felt small and scared. Luna walked to the door, then turned back. "By the way, Peter isn't really your friend. He lost his brother's business to you years ago. He's been waiting for revenge too." "We all have." As she closed the door, Marcus realized that his worst nightmare wasn't losing his money or his power. It was facing all the pain he had caused all at once, with no way to escape. And this was just the beginning of his year as Luna's husband. The next few weeks were torture for Marcus. Every morning, he would wake up to find something else missing from his life. His expensive paintings disappeared from the walls. His designer clothes vanished from the closets. Even his favorite coffee machine was gone. Luna had turned his huge apartment into a shelter for homeless families. The same kinds of families Marcus had made homeless over the years. Now he had to share his space with the people he used to look down on. "You can't do this," Marcus shouted. Marcus shouted one day, watching children play in his fancy living room. "Actually, I can," Luna said calmly. "I've invited these families to stay in their legally owned property. Remember, I own half of everything now. And these people? Each one has a story about you. Maybe you should listen to them." Slowly, Marcus learned their names and stories. There was old Mrs. Chen, whose restaurant he had taken away. Little Tommy, whose father had lost his repair shop to Marcus's tricks. Sarah, whose family's bookstore had been destroyed for one of his malls. At night, Marcus couldn't sleep. The faces of all the people he had hurt kept appearing in his dreams. During the day, he had to sit and watch as Luna used his money to help these families restart their lives. She was doing exactly what he had always feared, giving away his precious wealth. But something strange started happening. The more time Marcus spent with these families, the more he remembered what it was like to be human. He saw how they shared their food, helped each other's children, and laughed together despite having so little. One rainy evening, Marcus found himself teaching Tommy how to play chess with his expensive crystal chess set. The boy was smart and funny, reminding Marcus of himself when he was young, before he became obsessed with money. Luna watched all of this from the shadows. She had planned to make Marcus suffer, but she hadn't expected him to change. She saw him sharing his breakfast with Mrs. Chen's kids, helping Sarah carry her groceries, and even giving his designer suits to the men who needed clothes for job interviews. 6 months into their strange marriage, something unexpected happened. Marcus got sick, really sick. The doctors said it was from stress and not taking care of himself. As he lay in his hospital bed, he was surprised to see Luna sitting beside him. "Why are you here?" he asked weakly. "Isn't this what you wanted? To see me suffer?" Luna was quiet for a long time. "I wanted justice," she finally said. "I wanted you to understand what you did to all of us. But watching you these past months, you're not the same person anymore." Marcus looked at his hands. They were thinner now, not so soft anymore. "I was a monster," he whispered. "I see that now. All that money, all that power, it meant nothing. These people you brought in, they have nothing, but they're richer than I ever was." A tear rolled down his cheek, the first one Luna had ever seen from him. "I can't bring back your father or your son," he said. "I can't undo what I did. But maybe I can help make things right." Luna studied his face, looking for any sign of trickery, but all she saw was truth and pain and regret. "The year isn't over yet," she said softly. "Let's see if you really mean it." When Marcus returned home from the hospital, he did something that shocked everyone. He called a meeting with all the families, pulled out his papers and contracts, and started signing things over to them. Real ownership of shops, homes, and businesses, not just temporary help. "It's not enough," he told Luna later. "It will never be enough. But it's a start. Luna watched as her plan for revenge turned into something else, something that looked almost like redemption. As the final months of their marriage approached, Marcus and Luna's life had changed completely. The fancy apartment was now a busy community center. The expensive furniture had been sold to fund small business loans for families starting over. Marcus's huge walk-in closet had become a free clothing shop for job seekers. But the biggest change was in Marcus himself. He spent his days teaching business skills to the people he once hurt. He showed them how to protect themselves from people like his old self. At night, he wrote letters of apology to everyone he had wronged over the years. "Why didn't I see it before?" he asked Luna one evening as they watched Tommy's family reopening their repair shop. "All this time, I thought having money meant I was winning. But I was the biggest loser of all." Luna looked at him thoughtfully. The thin, angry girl from the streets was gone too. She stood straighter now, smiled more, even though her eyes still held sadness for all she had lost. "Sometimes," she said, "people have to lose everything to see what really matters." As the last month of their marriage began, Peter showed up at their door. He looked confused and angry. "This isn't what was supposed to happen," he shouted. "You were supposed to destroy him, Luna, not this." He waved his hands at the happy families filling the apartment. Marcus stepped forward. "She did destroy me, Peter, the old me, the cruel me, and I'm grateful for it." Peter pulled out the contract with their bet. "Fine, then you lose everything anyway. That was the deal." But Luna took out another paper, one she had found in Marcus's safe months ago. It showed how Peter had cheated. It showed how Peter had cheated his own brother, making him lose his business even before Marcus got involved. "More revenge won't fix anything," Luna said quietly. "We have to break the cycle somewhere." Peter left in shame, and the bet was forgotten. But Marcus and Luna faced a new question. Their marriage would soon be over. What would happen then? On their last night as husband and wife, they sat on the apartment balcony, watching the city lights. "I don't deserve forgiveness," Marcus said, "from you or anyone else." "Maybe not," Luna agreed, "but this isn't about deserving anymore. It's about choosing to be better, every single day." The next morning, they went to sign their divorce papers. But before they could, Marcus had one last thing to do. He handed Luna a stack of documents. "I'm signing everything over to a new charity," he explained, "to help families who lose their businesses, and I want you to run it." Luna stared at him. "Why me?" "Because you did the impossible," he said. "You turned your enemy into a better person. That's a gift not many people have." Instead of signing the divorce papers, Luna picked up a different document, articles of incorporation for the new charity. "One more year," she said, "not as revenge, not as a bet, just as partners trying to help people. Deal?" Marcus looked at the thin girl who had brought him to his knees and then helped him stand up straight again. Deal. And so the strange story of Marcus and Luna didn't end with revenge or hatred. Instead, it became a story of how the poorest person in town taught the richest one what true wealth meant. A story of how sometimes the best revenge isn't making someone suffer, it's making them see the truth. Years later, people still talk about the mysterious girl who married a cruel businessman. But they don't talk about how she destroyed him. They talk about how she helped him find his soul again. Marcus thought he had control, but now, piece by piece, everything he built on greed and cruelty is slipping away. With Luna in charge, his once powerful empire is crumbling, and this is just the beginning. Will he fight back, or will he finally face the consequences of his past? Stay tuned for the next episode to see how far Luna will go and what Marcus will do next. What do you think will happen next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. More twists and surprises are coming. Blast off.